So I talked to some relatives today that were trying to say that the refugees that the United States is now experiencing the influx of are recruited, like they're paid to do that, to pretend to be refugees. Like people go down to their countries and recruit these people, and that's why the number of refugees is increasing under Trump, is because people are paying them and recruiting them through hiring them to be refugees. And it's so fucking stupid. Like, how much would you have to pay a refugee? Like, if you go down to Honduras, I mean, first of all, it's totally anti-historical. Like, the conditions in Honduras are shit. The reason there are a lot of Hondurans looking for refugee status looks pretty directly related to the situation in Honduras is shit ever since at least 2009, before that as well, for different reasons, because of a military coup, right, where a bunch of right-wing drug dealers own Honduras and run that country right now. A corrupt government. So that's the most likely reason that they're refugees. The idea that somebody is paying them to pretend to be refugees is pretty unlikely. How much would you have to pay someone? If it was a poor person, desperate, and you're like, hey, I'll give you $10,000. Here's the $10,000. Go to the United States and pretend to be a refugee. That person would just use the $10,000 to set up somewhere else. Probably in Honduras, but, maybe on the way. Guatemala or somewhere on the way. I mean, what do you do to get somebody, hey, go to America with your kid. Your kid's going to be put in a concentration camp, but don't worry, conservatives will not consider it a concentration camp, so it'll be fine. Oh, but it's not their kid. They're paid to take... Okay, so you're paid to take somebody else's kid. How much would that take? And if you're paid this money and you're so poor and desperate, why would you go all the way up to being put in a camp exactly? How does... They're just really... It's like, hey, I promised I would. I mean... It's insulting because this kind of thing was said, conspiracy theories were said about the Jews leaving Germany. Why don't they stay and make Germany better? That's a funny thing right there. It's like, why don't the refugees stay and make their country a better place? That's what I'd do. Meanwhile, Ilhan Omar, you should leave your country. If you don't like it, just leave. If you don't love it or leave it. But for other countries, it's like if you decide, well, I don't love it, so I'm going to leave it. Well, that's a terrible thing. You should stay there and love it. I mean, it's just, it's not a lot of thought process involved in believing these things. It's bizarre, really, right? I mean, it's like if you accuse, let's say 20 women say, oh, we were rape victims. And you go, you were paid to say you were a rape victim. You're just making money off it. And they have no sign of having any money. Right? And you're just saying that. What if you're wrong? What if they are rape victims and you're not worried about that? I mean, to say that a bunch of refugees are just faking being refugees. When people leave their country, look, it's not just Americans that like their language and their traditions. Everybody around the world likes their language, the celebrations they had as a kid, their cultural events. They don't want to run away from their country. Every person is not starting off wanting to run away from it. If things are so shitty that they have to run away, chances are they're really shitty. No, they're just paid by Soros to pretend they're shitty. So things are great in their country, but they're somehow recruitable to pretend that they're shitty. So the Hondurans are pretending things are shitty in Honduras. They're not really shitty. Now, you can objectively check. Turns out they're shitty. But, no, they're being recruited to pretend they're shitty so they can come and be in a prison in the United States. That's your theory. Now, the thing is, the Bible says foolishness is a sin. Science says foolishness is a sin. So, that's a pretty wide berth, right? And in between is the truth that foolishness is a sin. It's a kind of lying. Foolishness is a kind of lying. So, you're a liar. You understand? You're a liar because you're wanting. Foolishness makes your statements a lie and a sin. Because refugees, how much, get really specific. Because if you're going to claim that refugees are faking it, you have to explain, one, the facts that make that true, but also, two, just how does that work? How do you pay a refugee money? So it's obviously a very poor and desperate person that you're paying, because most people will not just move to another country to go into jail. That's like, you'd have to be a pretty fucking expert spy to be paid to go be in jail somewhere else just to, create a vibe. To make them look bad like there's refugees. I mean, how is that even possible? That you would be desperate enough to need money like that and then go and be in a jail to get money, what, later? It's ridiculous. Looking at the comments, I have one comment. J. Troy Doe says, you can't fix what the U.S. military has ruined. Well, that's true. Alright, cheers.